Okay, so today I'm gonna do a little video on how to sharpen a hand plane and how to get it to perform a bit better. You can see here this is a piece, this is a very small, I think it's a 3" by 2" block plane. Okay, and this is something that you can get rather affordably. This is actually one from Mu Jingfang, one of the most common Hong Kong or Chinese style planes. In the intro, you saw me using one of these planes that I made myself. So I might be actually considering making a video on how to make one of these. They are a little bit technical to make, even if you exclude the metalworking part of it, but rather interesting project, so maybe that'll be the next video. But today I'm interested in getting you guys to understand how to use one of these and how to get it to perform a bit better than what you normally have right out of the box. Okay, and we will be using minimal equipment. I'm not going to be using any water stones for this. I'm going to show you guys how to achieve rather good performance on the hand plane, even with basic sandpaper and water that you can use at home. Okay, so let's get starting with this. So before we begin, I'm going to just benchmark this plane. This is one of the planes that I took from the main workshop, and it's something that we use usually for chopsticks and also for the carving of legs, chair legs and table legs. So this plane has been quite worn out after a while, and if you look closely, you can see maybe a bit of chipping in the teeth. And also, more importantly, right now I'm going to benchmark it. So I'm going to show you how the plane performs here. This is edge grain or side grain, which is the same as face grain. Okay, as you can see, the shavings are of a decent quality. It's not totally unusable. You do get rather thick shavings, but they do cut. The surface isn't too bad as compared to something like this, which is a little in better condition. You will have shavings that look a little bit more like a roll of paper. Okay, more consistent shavings across. So I'm gonna try and explain how to improve your plane performance, both from sharpening and also from the setup of the plane. I will cover in as much detail as I can in this video. I don't want to make it too long, so definitely there will be a follow-up video for this. And then but today I just want you guys to understand the basics of plane sharpening and plane setup. Alright, let's move on to opening up the blade. Okay, so if you have one of these hand planes, I love the wood ones. The sharpening aspect will be the same for any plane, but specific to this, I'm going to show you how to remove the blade. Okay, you're going to take your hammer and you're just going to tap the back of the plane like this. You can also hit the little corner here where your strike will be parallel to the blade. Okay, as you can see, as you hammer it out, the blade will actually fall out. And this is the same angle of approach that you will use for removing the blade. Not say removing it, but like just adjusting it back and forth. Okay, here we have, this is called the chip breaker. In this case, it is also the wedge that will hold the blade in place. A bigger plane, like a more traditional style, Japanese style plane like this will be something that doesn't have a chip breaker or a wedge. It's held purely by the body of the oak body. So we won't be covering this today, so we'll be focusing on a Chinese style plane, something like this. Okay, so as you can see, these are the elements of the cutting elements, the blade and the chip breaker. This is not something that we will cover today also, because in this case it's not super critical. We're going to be focusing mainly on the blade. So as you can see, right, this blade is has a very simple structure. It is purely just a square block of steel with a bevel cut on it. Okay, we're going to sharpen this right now, get it to improve a bit. Okay, so we're going to start sharpening. So one of the easiest ways that you could do this is with sandpaper, and here you can see I have a block of wood that has a jointed surface, a flattened surface, and I have held it down with a holdfast at the front. So that's going to be the basis of my sharpening flat surface. So sharpening is one of those topics that can be really simple or really in-depth. Today I would attempt to cover it from a perspective of just trying to get good performance at home. You might find that there are many different approaches to this, and the equipment used can vary very greatly. Normally in the workshop we use water stones for the sharpening, and those are really expensive. A good water stone will cost you anywhere from the bottom range about $40 maybe up to say about $100 to $300 for a stone. So those are something that you can't really you don't really find as accessible for beginners. So I'm going to show you how you can achieve the same result without any specialized equipment, just sandpaper and an understanding of how the entire thing works. So here is a piece of Merca Eco Wet. Right, so you need some kind of wet or dry sandpaper. If the sandpaper doesn't tolerate being soaked in water, then it's not going to work out for you. Okay, so for the purpose of sharpening this plane, right, as long as your material is flat, the base surface is flat, that's good enough for you. You could probably get a better result doing this on say a ceramic tile or a glass tabletop. However, using a piece of wood gives you a good raise, in this case like this, on a workbench, and it's not going to really affect your performance at all. So this is really about pretty much as far as you could get, as basic as you could get in sharpening, right? So if anyone could find out how they can do this with even more rudimentary equipment and get a better result in this, right, please let us know. That would be really interesting to me. So as you can see, I've been wetting the piece of wood, and now I'm going to put the sandpaper on it. Okay, so the surface tension of the material is going to help me to keep the sandpaper flat or stuck to the wood, and that's going to give me my basis for sharpening. So in a technique like this, you will notice that some parts of the thing is a bit bouncy. You can see some of the material is like kind of like bouncing out, right? So those areas are going to give you a slight curl on the end of your edge, or of your at the edge of your blade, right? So you want to try and avoid that area. Use the area that has kind of stuck down with the water, and that will give you a better result. Okay, so a plain blade has two surfaces, the bottom and the bevel side. So the bevel side is only sharpened on the bevel, of course, and then on the flat side is polished on the flat. And this blade is really kind of usable range, so we're mainly doing a little bit of refinement. If you are going to be using this, trying to bring this from a much worse condition, then maybe you want to try starting at a number, say about 120 grit or even 80 grit to remove heavy chips. Okay, so like I said, this is an 800 grit sandpaper that we're using, and we're going to start polishing the back first and then the top. Okay, so obviously sharpening is something that takes a real long time, right? Especially if you're doing it by hand. So I won't be showing the entire process today. I'm just going to explain it, and I'll do the rest of the work off camera. I don't think you want to watch me doing the same thing over and over again for about like an hour. Okay, so plain sharpening can be really therapeutic or really torturous, depending on your preference and also the equipment that you use and also what you're trying to achieve. So just take it easy. Just try and improve the condition of the blade every time you do it, instead of trying to get to the best result in one sitting, because your hands and eyes take time to develop the keenness to observe what the results that you're getting. Okay, so as you can see, the first thing you need to do is just to polish the back of the of the blade. And that's going to be done just pressing it down like this and then going like that. Okay, so the further you are in here, the more material you're going to be eating into on the blade, right? So the slower that's going to take, the longer that's going to take. The truth is you really only need to sharpen the part that's near the bevel. You only need to polish it and flatten it like that. You don't really need to get the whole blade to be done. So very often you will do a technique that looks like that. Okay, as long as you don't drop off the block or the sandpaper, that's fine. Okay, so pressure it like this, okay, and then you slowly move it in to even out the damage, and then slowly even in. You can also go at an angle like this or an angle in the opposite direction like that. The key thing here is you want to make sure that you're polishing here. You want to take a look at it, you want to check it under the light, you want to make sure that you see an increase in surface quality along the back of the blade, near the edge of the blade. Okay, if you see that, then that's great. If you don't see that, then something is wrong. You don't want to be tilting, this will be wrong. Okay, and you don't want to be just basically nothing other than flat. The flatness of a blade is one of the most important things in terms of preparing it for good cutting quality, because if the back of the blade is not flat, then you're gonna have a lot of problems with cutting, with establishing a straight cut. Okay, so right now I'm gonna do a quick check. I'm gonna see if I'm making any improvements. So there's actually quite a large chip right in the middle of the blade here. I'm not gonna attempt to remove that today. We're just gonna sharpen it as per normal. Okay, and then the next step that you're gonna do is to sharpen. Once, let's say you got the back flat, right? The next step you're gonna do is gonna be the bevel. And the bevel is something that you can actually feel clicking when you're going on the thing like that. And this is the one that's a little bit more difficult, because this requires you to control it while you're running. There are many jigs that are designed for you to hold the blade at a certain angle. I personally don't use that. I've never used it before, and I feel like if as a craftsman you're not able to hold the blade at a certain angle and repeat that, right, then maybe it's time you practice a bit more of that. Okay, so I'm just going to show you how to do that. You can put your finger here, you press on it and you click it. You can feel a little bit of a lock there. Okay, and that's going to be that's going to be roughly the position where you want it. Okay, it's not really essential that it is to the half of a degree that is accurate. However, the more accurate it is, right, the more aesthetically pleasing your blade is going to look. It's going to look like a more decent job, and therefore you might want to just try and get it as accurate as possible. But once you start deflecting a lot like that, okay, so a lot of beginners, they actually have this problem where as they're going forward, the hand drips and the hand just goes like this as they're going back and forth. You don't want to do that. Okay, so if you see on the camera here, you can see as I'm going back and forth, right, my angle doesn't really change, and I'm putting my fingers right on the bevel, on the other side of the bevel, and pressuring really on the edge of the bevel of the blade. You will be very tempted in this case to start cheating by increasing the angle just so that you can get to the edge a bit faster, and that is one of the ways that you can ruin the angle of your plain blade very easily. So be patient and stay locked in on the angle there, and try not to increase the angle, because you will arrive at the edge faster, but you will also have a slightly less aggressive cut angle, and that's going to affect your cutting performance in the next go. If you want to change your blade angle, please don't try to do it like at home on sandpaper. That's going to take you a really long time. You might want to just come down to the workshop and have us do it for you with a power grinder. Okay, so yes, I'm going to find the bevel now. I'm just going to continue sharpening it. Okay, so you do want to make sure that you keep your balance of strength equal on both sides of the blade. You don't want to pressure too much on either end, so that even if your blade is traveling in an accurate angle, you're still going to remove more material on either side if your pressure changes during the cut. What you're looking for is for the material to disappear from this side at the same rate on both the left and right side of the blade. Okay, other than that, the rest of it is experience and monitoring. You do have to have a lot of feedback when you're doing this. If you doesn't mean that the more hours you put into sharpening a blade, the sharper it will be. Okay, that's not the case at all. Okay, so try and keep your hands as steady as possible. You don't want to change the angle as you're going. Okay, and whether you do it like this, or you do it like that, or you do it in reverse, it really doesn't matter. Okay, find the one that's ergonomic to you and you will have a good result as long as you keep consistent during your process. Okay, so I'm gonna move on and do it properly now, so I'll see you in the next grid. But before that, I want to mention one last thing, one key thing to you. Make sure your blade is kept square to the body of, the edge is kept square to the body of the plain blade. If it starts to tilt, then you're gonna end up with a blade that is not very easy to get square on the surface, on the body of the plane. Okay, so keep this angle square. Okay, keep this area flat. Keep it flat across like this. You want it flat across like this. You also want it to be consistent across like this. Okay. Yeah, I'm not even going to try and film too much of that, of what I just described, because it's really all about practice. Once you guys get started practicing, then maybe we can have a discussion and I'll do another more detailed video with much close-ups. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to put in the minutes now, and once I'm done with this, I'm going to show you the next grid, which is 1005, and then we're going to go up to 2000 today, and then we'll be done. Okay, see you.